Dominic Brazeale is open to the idea of facing Dillian Whyte. He was quoted as saying, "People have talked about it for a while. I'm a fan-pleasing type of guy, so if that's what the fans want to see, I'm all for it," Brazeale said to The Independent. At the same time, I'm not going to pass up opportunities to fight for the WBC title. To go down there to fight Dillian Whyte.
What opportunities?
I hope he does make me some type of deal. He can come here to the United States, and he can get all he wants of Dominic Brazeale. Whyte views the contest with Brazeale as a sure-shot way to secure a mandatory crack at Wilder. "I'm trying to get a certain Dominic Brazeale because he's the mandatory even though I'm the #1 challenger," which doesn't make sense, Whyte said. "So if I can get him in the ring and have a dust-up with him and beat him, then I will become the mandatory and Deontay Wilder will have to stop hiding from me eventually. But we'll see." And Dillian Whyte went on to say that even if the Brazeale fight doesn't come off, he still has every intention of keeping busy. He doesn't plan on spending 8 or 9 months on the couch waiting for something to happen. He wants to stay active, he wants to stay busy. Thus, even if the Brazeale fight doesn't materialize, he'll just move on to the next available candidate. And that's the right frame of mind to be in, given what Dillian Whyte's goals are. He wants to raise his marquee value. He wants to raise his stock. He wants to further build on what he's already built so that he can become a hot commodity. He's in the right frame of mind because keeping busy would be the way to do it.
Pretty much.
Now, there was some interesting comments on Brazeale's side of the spectrum. You see, he said that he's not going to pass on an opportunity to fight for the WBC title. But you've really got to think that comment through. You've got to think that through, that what opportunity is it that you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that Dominic Brazeale is the mandatory challenger for the WBC title, that he is in line for that fight, but you can't act like you're preoccupied with your title shot when there's a fight on the table because, well, you're not fighting for the WBC title.
Not right now.
Tyson Fury is. And everybody knows that. So an opportunity to fight for the WBC title isn't actually there for you yet. The WBC champion is preoccupied, and we all know that. In which case, if Dillian Whyte presents an offer to you to fight him, it behooves you to take it.
You ain't busy.
Because it's not like you're doing much of anything else, right? I mean, what, you're too fucking busy? Seriously, you know? I'm not quite understanding Dominic Brazeale's frame of mind. You know, he's basically saying he doesn't want to jeopardize his title shot with Deontay Wilder, but at the same time, you're not about to fight Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's about to fight Tyson Fury, and his most recent set of statements indicate that after Tyson Fury, he maybe, if we're lucky, maybe he'll fight Anthony Joshua thereafter, in which case, even though you're the mandatory, you're not actually about to have that fight with Deontay Wilder yet, in which case, if an offer comes along from Dillian Whyte, it would make sense to take it. The other interesting bit about Dominic Brazeale's comment is that he indicated that if Dillian Whyte makes him an offer, he can come to the United States and get all he wants of Dominic Brazeale. And that's an even more curious comment. It gives off the impression that if Dominic Brazeale wants to have that fight, he wants to have that fight in the United States, which is a bit of a redundancy because, well, one, you'd be risking your position as a mandatory against Dillian Whyte, but if your intention is to stage the fight here in America, here stateside, then you'd be taking a risk, and you'd be taking that risk needlessly. Because Dillian Whyte's not a hot commodity here, and neither are you. If that fight is worth anything, if there's any value in that fight, it's in the UK, where Dillian Whyte is a pay-per-view attraction. Not here in America. You hypothesize that these guys enter negotiations. Dillian Whyte, he's a pay-per-view attraction over there. Thus, you might actually stand to make more money than you've been making so far fighting him, but fighting him in the UK, not in America. In turn, for Dillian Whyte, Dominic Brazeale's got something that Dillian Whyte wants. He wants mandatory status. Thus, if Dominic Brazeale plays his cards right, he can use that status as a bargaining chip to talk up his share of the pie, talk up his purse. What he stands to make for the fight, i.e., layman's terms. That fight is worth more to both of them in the UK than it is here in America. So why Dominic Brazeale would say that, oh, well, he can come here to the United States and get all he wants of Dominic Brazeale, why he would say that is beyond me when the real value in facing Dillian Whyte, the real incentive, it's not here in America, it's over there in the UK. Staging that fight here would be a redundancy. It'd be pointless. Both of you stand to gain less by having the fight here.
There's no point.
Very strange set of comments from Dominic Brazeale. You take a look at what these guys have been earning, both Dominic Brazeale and Dillian Whyte, and there's a big disparity between what these guys are getting per fight. You know, Dillian Whyte's probably one of the only guys, if not the only guy, that's pulling in multi-million-dollar paydays, and he's not even holding a world title, whereas Dominic Brazeale, you look at what Brazeale got for the Molina fight. He got something in the realm of $250,000. At least that's what the reports say. $250,000 for the Molina fight. You compare that to what Ortiz got for the Wilder fight. Ortiz only got about $500,000 for that fight, whereas Dillian Whyte is earning substantially more than both of them. I mean, you could put both of those purses together. Dominic Brazeale's $250,000 with Luis Ortiz's $500,000, and that still wouldn't total what Dillian Whyte's been getting per fight. So common sense, logic would dictate that you stage the fight where the fight is worth the most money. That way, both guys can be compensated for taking the risk that they're taking, in which case that market would be the UK market, not the market here in America, because I reiterate, neither Dillian Whyte or Dominic Brazeale is a hot commodity here stateside. I mean, for Dillian Whyte to come here and fight Dominic Brazeale in this market, essentially he'd be giving himself a pay cut, a substantial pay cut. And Dominic Brazeale, he'd be limiting his own earning opportunities just for a little home field advantage. Tell you, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's all I'm saying. Dominic Brazeale's comments, they really don't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense for Dillian Whyte and Dominic Brazeale to fight here stateside. It just doesn't. Not from a purely financial perspective. And lest we forget, this is prize fighting after all. I'll tell you something, and this is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. But it's almost like Dominic Brazeale wants to sabotage the negotiations before they even begin. Because I don't think that Dillian Whyte wants to give himself a pay cut by coming over here to have a fight like that.
It's a pretty big sacrifice.
But it sounds like Dominic Brazeale is trying to make that a sticking point, in which case, if that's a sticking point, you sabotage the negotiations before they even begin. It's a non-starter.
Pretty much.
That's the look of it. That's how it sounds. And I'll tell you, it's more of the same from those guys that are on that side of the street. Because lest we forget, Dominic Brazeale is a PBC guy. Those guys are notoriously hard to work with. You know, Dominic Brazeale's acting like he's got a belt around his waist. I mean, I understand that you're the mandatory challenger, but you stand to benefit from a fight in the UK just as much as he does. So why wouldn't you be willing to travel to make some more money? Substantially more. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you can talk your purse up to something more significant than just $250,000.
Maybe.
You tell Dillian Whyte, okay, I've got something that you want, and you've got something that I want. So let's find the middle ground here. Maybe you can talk that purse up to something closer to $1 million or $1 million.
Maybe.
Something along those lines, but, you know, staging the fight stateside, that, you know, it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Bottom line. In other news, it appears that unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua is set to bank a career-high payday for defending his titles against Jarrell Miller. Preliminary reports are putting the dollar amount that he stands to earn in this upcoming title defense at about 25 mil in UK money, which after you apply the conversion rate translates into $32 million US money. This purse would eclipse what Anthony Joshua just made with Alexander Povetkin, an approximate amount of 20 mil in UK money, which translates into a little over 22 million in US dollars. And these purses, these dollar amounts, would be coming from not only DAZN and what they're paying Anthony Joshua for the fight, but also for staging the fight as a Sky Sports pay-per-view in the UK and international broadcast networks that may also pay for the fight. You know, it's not just the UK guys. There's other networks in other countries that may want to show this fight. This is all according to Eddie Hearn. In which case, you know, you look at what Anthony Joshua made just for fighting Povetkin. Just what he made, you know, that's not the totality of what the fight brought in. That's not the totality of the revenue that the fight itself generated.
Because it was more.
But you look at what Anthony Joshua himself made for that fight. Just him. And you're talking about earnings that put his earnings in the same neighborhood as the totality of Wilder and Fury's pay-per-view and what that generated here stateside. Because the pay-per-view generated, you know, if the pay-per-view did in fact sell 325,000 buys at $75 a buy, you're looking at $24 million. Well, Anthony Joshua by himself made approximately $22 million fighting Alexander Povetkin.
Just him.
Now, this further indicates what I've been talking about in repetition to no end, that, you know, there's a big disparity in between what Anthony Joshua's earning and what everyone else is earning. Because this guy's got bankable fans that'll pay to see a fight. And, you know, demanding 50% of a fight with this guy, when we all know that it's his fans that are generating these dollar amounts, not yours. It's his fans that are really
showing up, showing out,
carrying these pay-per-views. Because, I mean, think about it. Who do you think all those people in the arena showed up to see? Alexander Povetkin? I mean, let's be serious here. The fact that Anthony Joshua has this kind of bankable revenue-earning power, asking for 50% of a fight with him is a non-starter. It's just a fast way to sabotage negotiations because you're not going to get that. Odds are you're not earning anywhere near what he's earning. But fighting him, you do stand to earn substantially more than you could with anyone else. Thus, you really should be realistic with yourselves. Now, for all intents and purposes, this fight with Miller's about 80% done, in which case, once the fight is announced, the focus is going to shift into making the event a success. That means they're going to market this thing. They want to make a splash. They want Anthony Joshua to make a statement here stateside on U.S. soil, in which case they're going to do what they got to do to sell this thing. They've got a couple of things working for them. They do. You know, this fight is said to be going down in either May or June.
Okay.
Coincidentally, there's another big-name fighter fighting in May, at the beginning of May. That guy's name is Canelo Alvarez. He's going to be fighting Daniel Jacobs on May 4th. So you hypothesize that right around the time Canelo's fight is about to go down, a lot of people are going to be subscribing to DAZN because they're going to want to see Canelo's fight. In which case, those subscribers are still going to be subscribed at the time that Anthony Joshua's fight is going to roll around. In which case, that'll get that fight that attention because these guys already subscribed to see Canelo's fight. You also factor in the UK fans. You know, UK fans show up and show out for their fighters.
They'll travel.
There are plenty of people from the UK that are already living here in the United States and in the tri-state area. Thus, you can hypothesize that those people are going to buy tickets to that fight. They're going to show up and they're going to pack out that arena as much as they can. That's not counting the people that actually live in the UK that are going to be willing to travel. And the fact that the fight is going on, you know, at Madison Square Garden in New York City, which is a popular tourist destination, the fact that the fight is going down in the summer, add that to it, and it's got the potential to make a big splash, to be a successful event. A successful event that also doesn't have the burden that some other events have.
What do you mean?
Because this isn't a pay-per-view, so they don't have to, at least not here stateside, it's not a pay-per-view. In which case, they don't have to worry about putting up respectable numbers in the U.S. market.
It's not pay-per-view.
Because in the U.S. market, they're going to show it on DAZN. And we already know that Anthony Joshua has very loyal fans in the UK, so for those guys that are going to be paying for the pay-per-view, he's got enough respectable fans that even if this fight is early in the morning, they still might do good numbers.
Maybe.
I don't think it'll be anywhere in the realm of, you know, 1 million buys or something like that, but you could put a number.
300,000?
You could put the number at maybe 400,000, something like that. I mean, he's got a lot of loyal fans over there. So what I'm getting at is here, the event itself has the ingredients to be a success. It does. There are several factors working for this event that could make it a success. In which case, if this event turns out to be the marketing and commercial success that they're hoping it is, which is possible given all the components aforementioned, if it turns out to be that big of a commercial success, that would effectively send a message to not only Deontay Wilder, but Tyson Fury, who tried to combine their powers to achieve a bit of leverage against Anthony Joshua by fighting each other. If Anthony Joshua touches down on U.S. soil, and his event turns out to be a bigger commercial success in terms of revenue, you know, not just attention, not just people that saw the fight on illegal streams, but if it actually generates more money than Wilder and Fury's fight just did, and their subsequent rematch, which will likely go down before this.
In April or May.
Sometime before this. You can hypothesize that that will further give Anthony Joshua even more leverage against those guys, regardless of who the winner of the fight is, regardless of the outcome, whether Tyson Fury beats Deontay Wilder or Deontay Wilder beats Tyson Fury. You know, I understand that their fight got a lot of attention. I do, I understand that. But what you guys have got to realize is it's not just the fight getting attention, it's the fight generating money. And in terms of money that was generated in the U.S. market from that pay-per-view, what you're looking at is $24 million. That's what you're looking at. Well, that totality is still less than Anthony Joshua stands to make by himself. So if you really needed any indication as to who the real A-side is, look no further. I mean, not only is he holding more world titles than the both of them, but he's earning substantially more than the both of them.
Yeah, he is.
Individually and put together. I'll tell you, it's a power move. It's a power move if I've ever seen one. And finally, an interesting update in what are the ongoing Jesse Vargas versus Kell Brook negotiations. Jesse Vargas says that he already accepted terms and he's waiting on Kell Brook. But here's the twist. You know, where before it seemed like Kell Brook would have had to come down to welterweight for that fight, it appears that Jesse Vargas has intentions of campaigning at junior middleweight. The article reads that, you know, after not being able to get the kind of fights that he wants in the 147-pound division, Jesse Vargas is prepared to go up to 154, and that if he can't land the Kell Brook fight, he's more than willing to go in there and square off against, get this, Jaime Munguia. Now, this is a bit of a game changer because I was of the opinion, you know, when this fight was first proposed, there were talks that Brook would have to cut weight in order for that Vargas fight, that essentially he would have to go back down to welterweight, and I didn't see that as a prudent decision given that Kell Brook struggled to make welterweight for a very long time, and fighting Jesse Vargas just isn't a big enough incentive for him to have to do that again. You know, that kind of a sacrifice could show up in his performance, given that Brook has been campaigning as a junior middleweight. Thus, the Jeff Horn fight, to me, made more sense. That, you know what, for going down there for Jesse, you might as well stay where you are and fight with Jeff Horn at 154. It's a better weight for both of you.
Since you're already there.
But now that Vargas appears to be moving up from the welterweight division, because, you know, he's not having luck getting the kinds of fights that he wants, it does make the Brook fight more appealing. It makes it make more sense. But I'll tell you that, you know, I recall when they were talking about the Vargas fight, they were talking about Brook coming over to the States for that fight. And my opinion of that is, you know, Kell Brook would probably stand to make more money fighting either Vargas or Horn in the UK than coming over here. Because, you know, Jesse Vargas is known, but he's not that known. Brook, he's even less known than him. Very curious as to whether or not they'll go through having that fight in the United States when you probably stand to make more money staging that thing in the UK. But, you know, it's an interesting matchup. At junior middleweight, it's an interesting matchup. Now, on to Jesse Vargas claiming that he wants to fight Jaime Munguia, you know, that he's building up to a Jaime Munguia fight. Look, with all due respect to Jesse Vargas, I can't give Vargas any more odds to beat Munguia than I gave Saddam Ali, and I actually picked Munguia to beat Saddam Ali before anybody even really knew who that kid was.
Link in the description.
Jesse Vargas does not pack the right size of punch to keep off a guy like Jaime Munguia, who's big, strong, young, aggressive, and likes to apply pressure. You know, it's one thing for Jesse Vargas, Jeff Horn, Kell Brook to square off against welterweights like themselves at junior middleweight that move up. You know, it's one thing for you to do that because essentially you're all on the same boat. It's an even playing field. But against a guy like Jaime Munguia, that's a naturally bigger guy than all of them. And in the case of Jesse Vargas, you weren't a particularly concussive puncher at welterweight. So what are the odds that you're going to carry some kind of power at junior middleweight? Essentially, it would be very difficult for Jesse Vargas to keep Jaime Munguia honest and to keep him off. Perhaps Jesse Vargas exhibits more skill and more polished boxing than Jaime Munguia, but I feel that there is simply too much size there for Jesse Vargas to have to overcome. The physicality would be overwhelming for Jesse Vargas.
Just my opinion.